Hey there. So over the last year, when looking at IDW comics, I have come up with this mental picture in which that place is essentially a plague ship. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to a boat that is pulled into a foreign harbor and they've picked up rats. These rats, they're infected with something, but in our case here, we're talking about ones that are infected with an ideological type of rabies. They go from person to person, biting them, and sooner or later, we notice that most people here, they're all infected. Not only that, but every time they pull into some port, they infect that place as well, and pretty soon we have a problem. We have a huge one. Now, when looking at Q1 2018, I've decided that not only do we have that issue with the plague ship, but the ship must be on fire, and the rats, they must be zombies, and they probably carry M16s as well. That's because these numbers are bad. And not only are they bad, they are very, very bad. IDW, they're not in a good place. Now, something to keep in mind with this is for the date range beginning October 31st, 2017. That is when their fiscal year starts. Q1 ends January 31st, 2018. Now, scrolling through this, there are a lot of numbers here, but the numbers that we want for the actual year, those things manifest, they come up with 3 months ended January 31st. You see the years here. So first we're going to look at 2017. If we skip down to the column that says net income, you'll notice that in 2017 for Q1 they made $127,000. For 2018, you'll notice a bracket around it. That means it's a loss. They lost $4,488,000. Now, a lot of that apparently comes from income taxes. Apparently they had provisions on their income taxes to the tune of over $4 million. But even before that, if we look at the numbers here, they actually were losing money in a lot of different ways. Look, for example, at the income from operations. In 2017, they made $291,000. In 2018, they lost $296,000. If we look at interest expense net, they lost both years, but look at the loss from year to year. It actually went up by over $100,000. Income before income taxes, when you look at that, they actually made revenue last year and it was cut down from the income taxes that were there. But you were talking about $274,000 last year. This year, they lost $433,000. So year to year, right there, you were talking about a substantial decline in the company, but the amount of loss that you're talking about because of the provision for benefit from income tax, you're talking about a mammoth amount of money. That kind of stuff is something that could kill a business. Going down through this, again, you see some translations like foreign currency translation adjustments. So you actually see that decline. It picks up a little more steam. So when we're talking about comprehensive income loss, you're talking about $4,563,000 in loss versus $135,000 in gain last year when we're talking quarter to quarter. So looking at the breakdown of the company, you can see the portions, IDW, IDW Entertainment, and CTM. This is page 10. I decided to skip down to it so we wouldn't have to breeze over everything there. You can see the way that this is broken down. Basically at the bottom you have 2017. At the top you have 2018. The portions that we want to look at are the income from operations and net income when we're looking at that. So last year we saw a net income for IDW of $58,000. This year we saw a net income loss of $217,000. We're talking about income from operations. Last year we were talking about $111,000. This year we're looking at a negative $337,000. Now when you look at CTM, they posted losses in both, but the huge amount of money that came out of that came out of the net income loss for CTM at $4,837,000. So now we're going to skip down to page 19, and the reason for that is because this truly explains where everything is coming from. We are going to read through it all, and I know you're excited about hearing that you're going to find out about income taxes and all the terminology, but still, this stuff matters. You have to understand that this is speaking company language, and if we can speak their language, we understand how they work, then we truly understand the functions, the problems, the fixes, and whatnot, probably better than most of their employees do. So let's look at this. Income from operations. Now, income from operations decreased by $587,000 for the 3 months ended January 30th, 2018 compared to the 3 months ended January 30th, 2017 due to several factors. Changes in operating income from IDW, IDW Entertainment, and CTM in the amounts of, we're going to look and hook these up for ourselves. IDW, they had a decreased in or a loss of $448,000. IDW Entertainment, they had a gain of $282,000, and CTM had a loss of $421,000, continuing here respectively, due to lower gross profit in IDW offset by an increase in IDW Entertainment, aggregating negative $271,000, more fully described below, and an increase in selling, general, and administrative expenses of negative $282,000, principally due to an increase in health insurance, filling in of vacant positions, and recruiting costs, rebranding and digital maintenance in the CTM segment, among other changes. Interest expense net. Interest expense increased by $122,000 in the 3 months ended, we know those 3 months, principally due to bank financing of operations in the IDW Entertainment segment. All right, so the sections for income tax. Now, we are not going to go through those verbatim because it is a lot of stuff. However, I want to explain a few things here. This is talking about the Tax Act, or the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is what most people call it. However, have you ever seen the name here? This is the actual name for it. Here you can see they said the U.S. government enacted, here's the name, an act to provide for reconciliation pursuant to Titles 2 and 5 of the concurrent resolution on the budget for fiscal year 2018. Now that is one heck of a name, but essentially what this does is it takes the federal statutory corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, and within it, it also requires companies to pay a one-time repatriation tax on earnings of certain foreign subsidiaries that were previously tax deferred. They call that a transition tax. Now, the next paragraph here is talking about the SEC's Staff Accounting Bulletin number 118, or SAB 118. Now, SAB 118 essentially says that if you haven't gone in and haven't figured out how much money that will be, you can kind of guesstimate it. I guess is a terrible word and yet an appropriate one, and they will allow that. You're going to have to, in the next 12 months, figure out exactly what that's going to be, but this estimated number, or guesstimated as I use there, is going to have to be the one that stands. So the company says they've not completed its accounting for the income taxes effect there. However, they're looking at the tax assets and book a reduction of $4.1 million. Because of the company's fiscal year, the rate reduction will be factored in and will use a blended rate of 23.2%. Now here, continuing, they talk about all of that here, and then they talk about the income tax here. Income tax expense increased for the 3 months ended January 31st, 2018, compared to the 3 months ended January 31st, 2017, by approximately $3.9 million, which mainly reflects the adjustment above. So you're talking about an increase in $3.9 million in taxes. So when you're talking about the IDW portion, I think the graph says it all. We have further breakdown explaining it, comparing year to year, but it's all in the graph. So let's really look at the graph. When we're talking about the end all, at the end, we're going to skip right to it. Income for operations. Look at the difference here. You were talking about in 2017, they made $111,000. 2018, they lost $337,000. You're talking about a change of negative $448,000. $1,000, or a change of over 400%. You're talking about a 400% decrease. Those numbers that we saw last year, they are nothing compared to these type of numbers. As I said, this is the reason that Chris Rael is out. You cannot dispute that. They can say that he stepped down all they want, but we're talking about over a year. We're talking about loss after loss after loss. Now, breaking that down, when you look at revenue, we're talking about a year-to-year decline of negative $1,388,000, or 18.6% negative decline. You're talking about a huge amount. Now, the other portions here, just to explain them, direct cost of revenues, that is essentially printing, artists, and what have you. You can see the numbers here, negative $628,000 for a negative 15.1%. And you can see the selling, general, and administrative for a negative 10%, or negative $312,000. I mean, you are talking about a lot of money there lost in print. You're talking about the comic portion is truly bleeding revenue. Compare that with, say, IDW Entertainment here. They actually made money. Now, this money, it came from television shows. They're making money off of television shows. That's where the revenue portion, they actually had an increase of 69.1%. If you go down from that, you can actually see the overall, when you're talking about income from operations from that, they're talking about a $282,000 change, or 41.1% increase. That's actually very good when you get down to it, when you break that down. Now, CTM, when you look at the income from operations, you're talking about last year, they saw a negative $506,000. This year, they saw a negative $927,000, or a change in negative $421,000, or a negative 83.2%. Now, you can break down those numbers. You can pause it. Actually, I will roll down a little bit more so you can actually pause it there if you want to read this, or you can go pull it up, obviously. They have bad debt and everything else explained here. They have liquidity and everything within this. You're talking about a very thorough breakdown. But the things that you want to know are essentially encapsulated in those front pages, and it explains, like I said, in taxes. But when you want to see the numbers, you want to know about the print portion. Print, again, is down over 400%. So when people want to tell you that the two Davids out there, the one that went out and castigated diversity in comics fans, or the one that went out and basically disparaged conservatives, those people don't have impacts. I say, look at these types of numbers. Look at them. Look at the bad faith operators out there, and you tell me they don't impact things. You tell me that they do not destroy businesses, because those are all lies. Basically, IDW, they are in a hole, and if they don't figure out exactly what to do, well, they're going to collapse, because they cannot keep running like this. Basically, they're trying to run off of licenses now. They're trying to have one portion offset the other portion, but this one portion, they keep talking about how it's going to manifest just over the hill and just over that hill, and it's not there. It's simply not there. We're talking about 5 quarters now where the numbers are so bad, it's insane. But anyhow, I'm going to end on this. Again, I'll leave you with all of that here. I think that really tells the story we need to tell. Thank you.